All right, get that kettle whistling, listeners, because today we are diving headfirst into the wonderful world of homebrewing. You really weren't kidding with this stack of research. Cheaper beer A&D, total control over how it's made. There should be a warning label on this knowledge.
It really is a fascinating blend of art and science. And your sources, wow, we've got centuries of history to unpack. Did you know we might actually have Noah to thank for homebrewing?
Wait, are you serious? Was he like brewing IPAs on the Ark in between gathering animals?
Not quite IPAs, but you're onto something. You see, back then, brewing wasn't just about, I don't know, catching a buzz. It was essential for safe drinking water. Think about it. Boiling water, adding fermented grains. It was basically purification in a world without, water treatment plants.
Wow. Okay, that really puts things into perspective. I guess those ancient Babylonians were onto something when they were paying people with beer. Though paying my rent in six-packs might raise a few eyebrows with my landlord.
Speaking of history, this Making Beer at Home document you've got really goes deep into how brewing evolved. For centuries, monasteries were like the original craft breweries, meticulously honing their recipes.
Monks and habits crafting delicious ales. Now that's a brotherhood I can get behind. But the document also mentions how brewing used to be considered women's work for a long time. Like a lot of widows actually brewed professionally. It was one of the few jobs they could actually do.
Right. Yeah, it really makes you think about how much social norms have changed, for sure. Imagine brewing being a family business passed down, through generations. Now it's more about passion. That desire to create something truly unique, something you just can't buy.
And speaking of unique, the document makes a great point about how homebrewing gives you like ultimate control over the flavor, right? You're not stuck with whatever's on tap at the bar. You're the maestro of your own beer symphony.
Exactly. You can tweak the bitterness. You can experiment with all different types of hops to fine-tune the aroma, even control the mouthfeel. You can unlock this whole world of flavors that just get lost in mass production.
Like, is that related to the whole live beer thing the document mentions, where commercial pasteurization, while important for safety, can kind of mute those subtle nuances?
Absolutely. See, pasteurization uses heat to get rid of bacteria, which makes sense, but it also impacts those delicate flavors. Homebrewing lets you bypass that whole thing. You preserve a vibrancy and complexity that, let's be honest, you won't find on most supermarket shelves.
So it's like the difference between a fresh tomato straight from the garden versus that, plastic tasting one from the store.
Now that is a tasty analogy. And we can't forget the cost savings. Going the homebrew route can save you some serious cash, especially if you're, let's be honest, a regular beer drinker.
Okay, I'm sold on the idea, but I'm looking at some of the equipment in this document and I'm a little intimidated. Wort chillers, hydrometers, is it worth the investment?
Well, that's the million-dollar question for a lot of people, isn't it? It really boils down to your, brewing aspirations. Think about it this way. You wouldn't show up to a gourmet cooking competition with just a rusty old spatula, would you? The right tools can make all the difference.
Now I get it. It's like the right tools can make or break the final product right. But for a total newbie like me, isn't a starter kit the best way to go? This whole beer machine thing sounds pretty foolproof.
Yeah, kits are really great for just, dipping your toes into the home brewing waters. They give you everything you need, all measured out, so it takes out the guesswork. It's like having a culinary school chef guiding your every move.
So starter kit for the hesitant chef, full setup for the seasoned pro. I like it. But even with a kit, there's still some terms I'm like, what in the world is this? Like this racking cane. Sounds like something you'd find on a pirate ship.
All right, let's demystify racking canes right now.
Yeah.
It's just a tube, really. You use it to transfer the beer between containers without disturbing all the sediment at the bottom. Think of it like a gentle siphon for your precious brew.
Oh, so that's how you get that, crystal clear beer. But this document really emphasizes sanitation throughout the process. Are we talking, hospital level sterilization here?
Not quite to that level, but you're right to be cautious.
Yeah.
Any, bacteria or wild yeast, it can all ruin an entire batch. You'll end up with some, let's just say, interesting flavors. The document recommends some specific sanitizers that are safe for brewing, so no need to raid the first aid kit just yet.
Okay, that's good to know. So once everything's squeaky clean and the wort is ready to go, it's fermentation time, right? That's where the magic happens.
Exactly. That is where those little yeast cells, they earn their keep. They go to town on the sugars in the wort, and what do they produce? Alcohol and carbon dioxide. It's actually a really cool process when you think about it. Biology meets chemistry.
Speaking of yeast, The document mentions different types. What's the deal with that? Is it just personal preference?
Oh, no, not at all. Different yeasts have, unique characteristics that can really change how your beer turns out. For example, some yeasts, they do better in warmer temperatures, while others, they prefer it cooler. And that can affect how fast the fermentation happens, how the beer tastes, even how it smells.
So choosing the right yeast is like almost as important as the other ingredients.
I'd say so. Yeah. Some yeasts are known for giving off these fruity aromas, like you might get a hint of citrus or even banana. Others might give you a drier beer or really bring out those hoppy characteristics.
Wow. I had no idea there was so much to think about with yeast. I'm starting to see why those online homebrewing forums you mentioned could be so helpful.
Oh, for sure. Those forums are amazing. People share everything, tips, recipes. It's a gold mine of information, especially when you're trying to, find the perfect yeast for a specific style of beer.
I bet. Plus, it's probably good to connect with other brewers, right? Share stories, commiserate over any brewing mishaps.
Absolutely. Because, let's face it, even with the best equipment, the best intentions, sometimes things just, you know, they don't go according to plan.
You're telling me, so what happens then? Do you just start over?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But even seasoned brewers, we have those what went wrong moments.
Mhm.
The key is to not get discouraged. Think of it as a learning experience. Sometimes a batch that doesn't turn out how you expected can lead you to something even better next time.
That's a good way to look at it. So no need to panic if my first batch is, more vinegar than victory.
Exactly. Just embrace the process, learn from it, and remember, even the most experienced brewers, we all started somewhere.
Okay, you've given me some confidence back. I might have to crack open this making beer at home document again. They did mention a tempting barley wine recipe and a classic Oktoberfest.
Those are both great choices. The barley wine, it's got a higher alcohol content, really rich and complex flavors, but it does need some time to age properly.
So it's perfect for people who like what do they say, a slow and steady fermentation process, like aging a fine wine.
Exactly. The Oktoberfest, on the other hand, that's a classic for a reason. Malty sweetness, a little bit of bitterness, perfect for, a party or a celebration.
And nothing says impress your friends like showing up with a keg of your own home-brewed Oktoberfest. But in all seriousness, this document really emphasizes that homebrewing, it's about more than just the beer itself, right? It's about the whole experience.
Yeah, it's about connecting with an ancient craft, getting creative with flavors, and yeah, it's definitely about the community too.
And who knows, maybe even discovering a hidden talent for brewing. But before we get too carried away with dreams of becoming brewmasters, let's give our listeners some practical advice. You mentioned online forums, but what about local resources?
Don't underestimate a good homebrew shop. A lot of them have classes, tastings, and you can get advice from real-life experienced brewers. It's like having a mentor on speed dial.
A brewing mentor on speed dial, that's a service I would sign up for. It's like having a personal trainer, but for my, beer tasting skills.
There you go. And they can help you avoid common mistakes, answer any questions. Plus, sometimes it helps to talk things through with someone who's been there.
Speaking of, well, not mistakes exactly, but this Making Beer at Home document is full of these little historical tidbits. Like, did you know William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, was a huge beer fan?
Oh, yeah, he was really into it. Back in the 1680s, he even opened a brewery in Philadelphia.
Guess even founding fathers need a cold one after a long day of, writing constitutions and whatnot. But it wasn't just about the taste for William Penn, was it? The document mentions he preferred beer over hard liquor. And, well, I guess you could say it was for the sake of social harmony.
It's true.
Yeah.
Penn saw beer as, this wholesome drink that promoted moderation. In fact, the document uses this great phrase. It says, beer prevented bad tempers. It's kind of funny to think about how different things were back then.
Right. Makes you wonder how people will think about our drinking habits, centuries from now. Will craft breweries be the new monasteries jealously guarding their secret recipes?
Who knows, maybe. But on that note, we've covered a lot of ground today, from ancient ales to, modern-day microbrews and everything in between. So as we're wrapping up, what's really sticking with you from all this?
To be honest, it's a lot to take in the best way possible. I had no idea the world of homebrewing was so, deep. I went from, I like beer to maybe I could make beer in an hour.
That's the beauty of it, right? Knowledge opens up these new doors, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute, I could try that.
Exactly. So if you could give our listener just one piece of advice, As they're starting their home brewing journey, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to experiment. Make it your own. Homebrewing is all about the journey, and honestly, some of the best discoveries happen when you least expect them.
And hey, maybe invest in a good bottle opener while you're at it. I have a feeling we'll be toasting to some successful batches very soon.
Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Cheers to new passions, to the perfect pint, and to never saying no to a little adventure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into home brewing, and until next time, happy brewing.